Hi, today I will be teaching you more about the topic of dollar cost averaging. And by the end of this video, you should know the answers to the following questions. First of all, you need to know what dollar cost averaging is, you need to know how it works, and you need to know what the benefits of dollar cost averaging are. And I've personally chosen to explain and teach more about this subject because I think that dollar cost averaging is a very essential tool or strategy when it comes to building wealth passively while also still managing your risk. So of course, some people they actively trade with their money, but most people just don't have the time, the skills, or the knowledge to do that. So they just invest a portion of their money into a few stocks or an index fund, uh, yeah, passively. So I think for most people, it's very relevant, even if you are already quite experienced in investing. But what really is dollar cost averaging? The definition is quite simple. It's investing a fixed amount of money at regular intervals, regardless of the market condition. So, for example, you take $500 from your paycheck every month and you invest it into the S&P 500, and it doesn't matter how the S&P 500 has performed recently. And this has a number of benefits. The first is it lowers the average cost you pay for a stock and yes, smooths out the value of your portfolio over time. And this is because when the price is low, you can buy more stocks with the same amount of money and accumulate a pretty large position when the market is quite bad. But then you have a lot of shares to profit from the momentum upwards, and you can take the ride up and make a lot of money. But I will explain to you with an example in a minute how this really works. Secondly, it protects you against timing risk. You invest every single month or even bi-weekly, so there's no risk of investing one big lump sum of money and then the market turns on you and you lose your inheritance or your life savings or retirement savings. So that's a good thing. It also reinforces the practice of passive investing and wealth building through passive investing by just investing on a very regular basis. So it also keeps you disciplined when we talk about investing. And lastly, it just removes the emotions from the investment completely. You invest regardless of the market conditions, so you don't buy into the hypes or into the panic selling, and you just hold on for a long time. Usually, everyday investors they tend to react quite late when an opportunity arises, and then they buy at a high, and then when the price goes down, they panic and they sell it low. Warren Buffett used to say, "Be fearful when others are greedy, and greedy when others are fearful," and that's how he profited from this kind of behavior. So it's important to remember that. And I've made an example to show this in practice, how it works and that it actually works, by making two scenarios. In both scenarios, you invest $10,000 a month on average in the S&P 500. But in scenario one, you invest 120,000 in one big lump sum at the beginning of the year on January 1st. And in the second scenario, you just invest $10,000 at the beginning of every single month. And for this scenario, I've chosen the first decade of this millennium because it was a very volatile decade. You had the dot-com boom, the bubble, the crash. You had 9/11. You had the Great Recession, of course. So this was a very important decade to manage your risk. And the results are the following. So in scenario one, you would have ended up with 13,615 shares. And in scenario two, you would have had 13,740 shares. So that's 125 shares more, worth about $12,000. Doesn't sound like a lot, probably, but essentially it means that scenario one was more than a month behind at the end of the decade, which is not negligible, you could say. And in this graph, you can actually see that you have a very gradual accumulation of your shares in scenario two, and in scenario one, yeah, you just have one big step every single year. I do want to be completely transparent with you. When I made this video, I ran a variety of scenarios, and there were actually a lot of 5, 10, 15, 20-year scenarios where investing one large sum of money at the beginning of the year was actually the best way to go from a financial perspective, not a risk management standpoint, but the financial perspective. Because generally speaking, the S&P 500 will increase over time when we talk about a long enough time frame of half a decade, 2 decades. So investing a lot early on is usually the best way to go in that case. But DCA is more relevant for someone who, has a windfall. And in that case, dollar cost averaging is much more about risk management than really about maximizing returns. It could maximize returns, but it doesn't necessarily have to be the case. And in this graph, you can actually see that for the example that I figured. The average price you pay in scenario two is much, much smoother than in scenario one, where it goes up and down with big steps, simply because in scenario two, you invest every single month. And in this case, in scenario two, the average price was actually cheaper by the end of the decade on average. So you didn't just have, a risk management benefit, but also financial advantage, and that can really be the power of dollar cost averaging. So I'm starting to wrap up. Dollar cost averaging isn't necessarily about, chasing the highest possible return, but it's much more about consistency, discipline, protecting yourself from the timing risk. And yeah, by investing a fixed amount on a very regular basis, you can really smooth out that average price you pay for stock and remove the emotions from your decisions and just steadily build wealth over time without really having to do anything. So, yeah, whether you're an experienced investor already or you're just starting out, it can be a very powerful tool to keep your money working for you. So, yeah, that's a great thing. And on that positive note, I would like to end. Thank you for watching.